want to talk about a concept. I don't even know if it's a real concept or not, but it's real to me, and it's not something which is widely discussed, and I think it's really interesting. And I'm calling it the shamanic field. Now, what would be the shamanic field? Well, there seems to be a zone of consciousness where shamanic work takes place. In the context of ayahuasca ceremonies and plant medicine, that seems to occur in the space of Icaros and singing and this kind of idea. And how does that actually work? Now, as many of you know, I've been working with some of these sacred tree essences products. I've had a lot of amazing experiences with those. The last one I had a big experience with. I have a bunch of big experiences, but one of the big shamanic ones was Huayra Caspi, which was very interesting. But I recently had another experiences which was really, really cool with Punga Amaria. And Punga Amaria is a tree. And the last time I did it, it felt kind of abstract, and I didn't really connect with the plant. I mean, I connected with it, and I felt like I was, something was happening, but I didn't really connect with its identity, I guess. And now I have. And not only that, not only did I connect with the identity, but it's actually opened up a whole bunch of understanding about what I'm calling is the shamanic field. And it also ties in with what I've been talking about in my other videos, because, in this channel, I kind of go between two different subjects, right? I'm talking about Kundalini, talking about energy, and then I sort of go back to plant medicines. And it's like, choose a direction. And it's funny because, a lot of times what happens is when I do videos about plant medicine, I lose subscribers. If I do things about divinity and Kundalini, I get subscribers. So it's like a lot of the criticism which a lot of YouTube channels get is that they're not focused enough. And if you focus on one idea, you'll gain a huge following. Not that that's really ever been my goal, but it is an interesting sort of dynamic, and it points to this idea that I've had I've sort of got sort of twofold. There's sort of two things going on at the same time. But the shamanic field seems to tie them both together. And so probably the best way to start with this is to go back to think about what I've been talking about in the last month or so, which is after my Kambo ceremony a month or so ago, I had this breakthrough, which seems goofy to say it's a breakthrough, but what it was that I suddenly started realizing this energy I'm using, that you have to come to terms with it as divine. It's gifted from divinity or divine infinity or whatever you want to call it, from God, whatever you want to call it. And that's where it comes from. And it's easy to give lip service and to think that, but it's another thing to actually double down and believe it completely. And so after that Kambo ceremony, this was an idea which just floated into my consciousness, and I went with it, and I discovered that, wow, the energy is actually way more profound. And it's already really profound, but it goes further. It goes further, not further than I'd imagined, but further than I was willing to believe, I guess. I think that's probably a better way of saying it. So, connecting with divinity, and that really goes to just really believing. And what happens is when you belief seems to be it's almost like a specific imaginative quality. And when you really believe something, then, it becomes real. And, all the law of attraction people know this, right? You believe it, then it becomes real. I believe I'm going to be a millionaire, and there you are. You're a millionaire. So this is so that's a sort of interesting thing. So it's the idea of belief in divinity. And so I've been working with this now for a month, and it's been a very new and powerful vibe, and actually something which has been really, it's opened up a lot of doors. Now, I've been working with these sacred tree essences for a couple of years now. Really powerful. Had some amazing experiences. Can't say anything bad about any of them. They're really good. But it all ties in with this belief. You see, what happens is oftentimes people say, you get a lot of people, they want to learn how to do Icaros, How would you do it? There's another channel where somebody was teaching how to do Icaros. I mean, somebody was trying to teach me how to do Icaros, and it's like coming up with word ideas, and that's not really how it works. I mean, usually you get a melody from the plant, right? And that's kind of how it works. But that's not how it works either. It's something else. So what it is you have to create a field. You have to create like a field, a safe place for the plant spirits to come into. In a way, this is kind of like classical evocation, where you have to create incense and various things to try and make the environment comfortable for the spirit to enter. Now, this is kind of how this works with the plant spirits. So what it is this shamanic field and energy work sort of are the same thing. And so what happens is, in the same way is, you see, I'm doing this all the time now. I'm doing energy work, and I go into this sort of space of what I think of as like sacred divinity kind of a space. So for the last 3 or 4 days, I've been doing Punga and Maria, which is one of the essences. And just last night, I woke up at 2 a.m, couldn't sleep, so I thought I'll just do some energy work, right? And so I go into the energy work, and I go straight into the space of sacred divinity. Now, there's a bunch of there's a bunch of techniques with this, and some of it involves the pineal gland. The pineal gland is really important, and being able to channel information between different chakras. And what you can do is you can use this to create like a band of divine energy, which is kind of a safe space, it turns out, for plant spirits. So what I encountered is, as I was in this band of divinity and focusing deeply on my pineal gland, all of a sudden I make contact with the plant spirit of Punga and Maria, and it starts communicating with me. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And you see, I'm in this space of complete divinity, so it's all good. So I just expand the field. I just expand this field of divinity. And lo and behold, the plant spirit emerges as a sort of symbolic snake image. And it's almost like it's up in a tree. And it starts descending, and it comes down into me, like down into my chakras. And we start. And what's really interesting is it starts teaching me how to use Icaros. So it's not so much, now what's interesting about it is there is a melodic aspect to it. So there's a melodic aspect, and there are word aspects, but that's really less important, because what an Icaros really is about creating I hate to use the phrase holding space, but it's about creating a vibrational signature, which I guess it's like this divine vibrational signature wherein it can do its work. So you create this divine vibrational signature, and the plant starts working because it can. And you see, this is the big frontier between listen, I'm not a shaman, right? But this seems to be the frontier between doing shamanic work and not doing shamanic work. It's about creating this safe space where the plant feels like it can come and work safely. And so it comes in, and it starts teaching you about how to work the melody. It starts teaching you about how to it's almost like rhythmically, la 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 la, And it was so cool because it was giving me, it was showing me, it was giving me like what's it called, the shapaka? That's the rattle, the shamanic rattle. It was showing me images of how to use the shapaka. And this was actually used to expand and sort of architect out this shamanic zone wherein it could do its meanderings. So as it starts meandering, what you can do is you start being able to use like little melodic ideas. And it's almost like, you see, there are negative aspects within us. And this is how it all started, you see, because I was actually thinking about something, and a thought came into my head, and I'm like, where did that thought come from? Right? It wasn't really my kind of thinking. It wasn't really my kind of thinking, and it was when I was thinking about that thought, that was when I first made contact with the Punga Maria. And what it did was it started showing me how to use melodies. And what you do is you sort of lay out these sort of nice, it's almost like they're tempting melodies. They're sort of nice little melodies. It's like putting out cheese. It's like putting out cheese for a mouse. La, 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 la. Everything's nice. And what happens is these negative energies are lulled. It's almost like they're hypnotized by this sweet little melody. It's like a honey trap. And they come out, the negative energies come out, and then you sort of envelope them. You envelope them inside of the melody. La 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 la. And there's this technique to remove using melody. But you see, it's not a melody. What you're doing is you're creating vibrational space, and you're using melody as, it's almost like a lure to lure out negativities, lure out negative spirits. And so this was going on for about an hour last night, just going through each chakra and changing these little changing the melodic signatures, changing the rhythm. And what happens is as you change the rhythm, you change the sort of as you change the rhythm, you kind of change the vibrational signature of this shamanic field, right? So you can do a whole bunch of different things in this, but the main thing, it seems to be, as a practitioner, is that what your job is to do is actually just to, I mean, it's like the old thing, hold space. You got to hold the vibrational space of the shamanic field and allow the plant to do its work. And so all you're really doing singing the Icaros is you don't actually have to, I mean, it's kind of like you're working with the plant. It's kind of like you have to work with the plant to weave this this amazing thing together. So the shamanic field, it seems to be it seems to be a vibrational state which you can create by belief in the divine origins of energy. And when you believe in the divine origins of energy and you commit to it fully, like I said, this is like it's a special type of imaginative construct, and inside that construct many things are possible. In many ways, this experience was very similar to the experience I had with Huayra-Caspi, but with Huayra-Caspi it was almost too much information. It was remedies, and this had a sort of different vibe to it. This was more about managing the space, but I think both can work this way. And I'm actually really interested now in trying to work with all of these essences again, but working with them from this space and working with them specifically from the pineal gland. You see, there's a great technique of working with the chakras. And what you do is, typically, you might use energy inside of each chakra, and that's a great way of doing it. But another way of working with this is using the pineal gland as if it's a lens. And what you do, it's almost like a holographic projection lens. And what you do is you enter into the pineal gland and you holographically project each chakra into this, it's like a holodeck of the chakras, and you project it in. And so rather than actually going down to your chakra, which you can do, you actually project it inside the pineal and use the pineal gland as like a center place. Now, it sounds imaginative than it is, but this is a really, really, really powerful thing. This is like a secret, and it's funny because I used to do pineal gland stuff back in the day, and I stopped doing it because it seemed things went kind of haywire for a while. But the key thing is to maintain the focus on divinity, and if you hold that space of the divine focus, all kinds of things become possible. And this also works with the Kundalini stuff. If you want to raise your Kundalini, do this technique with the holographic projection of chakras inside the pineal gland. This is how to massively raise Kundalini. But the really interesting thing now is that it's just such a privilege to work with these plant spirits and see them work, because they're the finest aspects of the Amazon jungle revealed to the human consciousness, and all you've got to do is connect with your own divinity before you deserve to connect with theirs.